Chapter 8. It's all the black woman's fault. This is the chapter where I will probably receive the most scrutiny from black women. Sorry, ladies. I want to remind you once again that it is not my intent to bash or offend anyone. But this simply has to be said. Ever since I was a little boy, I have heard black women complaining about black men. Their complaints were that they were not ambitious, they did not work, they were disrespectful, they were not thoughtful, they were irresponsible, they were bad fathers, etc. So, because of the things that I heard, I made a conscious decision to be the exact opposite of what they said was a bad man. My father was deceased, and the only example of what a man should be came from what I heard women say they wanted in a man while I was growing up. To my surprise, once I reached dating age, I realized one harsh truth after getting my feelings hurt a couple times. The type of men most women say they want and the type of men most women are attracted to are two completely separate things. Earlier this week, I was listening to one of my favorite radio shows, The Michael Bazin Show, and he, along with comedian George Wilborn, were discussing the great example that then President-elect Barack Obama was setting for young black males, and how black women were happy to see a successful black man that was responsible and took care of his family. They said that there needed to be more examples of men like that, and if there were, then less young men would get lost to the streets, ignorance, and crime. And then they called for all black men to stand up and change. While I do agree that more black men need to step up to the plate, I do not believe that the problem is the fault of the men alone. In fact, I believe that the reason so many young black men get lost in the system and never reach their full potential is primarily the fault of black women. I know right now you are really upset and trying to figure out where the hell I'm going with this. But you should know by now that I back all my statements up with great explanations. So here it goes. You see, for whatever reason, black women are attracted to men that are the opposite of what they say they want. When a man is truly in love with a woman, he wants to be near her all the time. He places himself second to her needs and wants. Her happiness is all that concerns him, and at this point, his heart is completely vulnerable. Now take a pause from reading for a second and think. How many times have you or one of your friends had a guy to behave like this? Ask yourself, how did you feel about it? Did you appreciate it? Did you think it was sweet? Did you think it was sexy? Or did you think he was weak? A punk? A pushover? And was his behavior a turnoff? Now ask yourself, when you are alone and in a sexy mood and you are fantasizing about a sexual encounter with a man, what type of man do you picture? Is it a man similar to Bryant Gumbel, Harold Ford, and Barack Obama? Or is it some big, muscular, intimidating, rugged-looking man that has a street badass thug type of swagger? The point is this: most black women don't date or have sex with the men that possess the qualities that they say that they want in men. Actually, black women probably do genuinely want a relationship with a good man, but they want to fuck the assholes because the really good men are not sexually attractive to them. During the course of this chapter, I'm going to really try to refrain from stereotyping. But keep in mind that when I make a statement, I'm speaking in general about most individuals, not all. The point to all of this is that black women perceive that many black men are worthless because they only give the time of day to the worthless ones. The educated, clean-cut, sophisticated, khaki, shirt and tie guy is not what you all are attracted to when you are young and vibrant. You want a man that looks like a street thug to have a Harvard education. You want a man to have a master's degree and still talk like a high school dropout. It is only after these men accomplish a certain level of success that you then notice them. But you are noticing their success, not them. You are attracted to their success, not them. So now ask yourself, what the hell is wrong with you that makes you sexually attracted to hoodlums, street thugs, drug dealers, or simply men who look and dress like them. Truth of the matter is that if President Barack Obama had approached many of you in the late 80s while he was still establishing himself, most of you would have turned him down. He does not fit the typical idea of what Black women consider physically attractive, nor does he possess what a lot of people refer to as swagger. That being said, how many good men have you allowed to walk in and out of your life simply because he had his shit together? Before any of you begin to challenge what I just stated about President Obama, remember that while he was attending Harvard Law School, he served as an intern at Sidney and Austin Law Firm in Chicago. That is where he met Michelle Robinson, who was basically his boss at the time. Even she was reluctant to date him at first because he was her subordinate. He actually had to ask her out several times before she gave in. Fortunately, she changed her mind, or else the beautiful first family that we presently have would not exist. The truth is, many Black women pass up great men because of really silly things like him making less money than them or being younger than them. Let me give another example. In April of 2010, the ABC Nightline Face-Off was held in Atlanta, Georgia. The title of the face-off was, "Why Can a Successful Black Woman Find a Man?" In attendance, there were a couple of key panel speakers. They consisted of Steve Harvey, actor, comedian, and best-selling author; Hill Harper, actor and best-selling author; Jimmy Israel, NBR contributor and author; Sherry Shepherd, talk show host and author; and Jackie Reed, reality TV personality. While having the discussion on this heated topic, Hill Harper states what I have been saying for years: women need to date men for their potential instead of where they are currently at in life. Then the discussion transitioned to the women being asked about them being open to dating hardworking men with a lower status, such as plumbers, electricians, blue-collar plant workers, etc. And Sherry Shepherd laughed. Then she came back and tried to clean it up by saying that she didn't have a problem dating men like that. And then came the stinker. Hill Harper then stated that a long time ago, before his entertainment career had reached success, he was inside a Taco Bell when he met Sherry Shepherd, who also had not achieved success yet. He stated that he asked her for a telephone number and she turned him down because, first of all, he did not own a car. And second of all, he was so cute with a goofy smile. He stated that he hadn't made it yet, but he had potential, and she never gave him a chance. Then she stated, "Well, now I'm where I'm at and you're where you're at, so maybe now we can make some things happen." Okay, now that you know the story, allow me to break this down. The broke, but talented and ambitious Hill Harper approached Sherry Shepherd and was turned down because he had not achieved his goals yet, and because he lacked the domineering, aggressive appearance that I spoke of about earlier. Then, after he achieves his goals, Sherry then offers him an opportunity to be with her. Here's the problem. Now he is the rich movie television star, best-selling author Hill Harper, and because of his accomplishments, income, and status, he has the ability to date the majority of available Black women, and even some that are not available. So why on earth would he date an overweight, middle-aged woman with a child when he can date young, attractive supermodels and actresses, or simply successful women that look like them? That's like someone purchasing a station wagon when they can buy a Lamborghini. Sherry Shepherd represents where a lot of Black women go wrong and end up missing their man with that bullshit. You judge men based on where they are instead of where they are going. And usually, if a man is given a chance that hasn't become successful yet, it is typically the kind of guy that will probably never become successful. If you only sleep with losers, then 9 times out of 10, your children's father will be a loser. If you only choose to have relationships with street thugs and hoodlums, then chances are you will experience many men that are disrespectful. If men that articulate themselves and use correct grammar sound like Uncle Toms and dorks to you, then the chances are you will date men that have a hard time getting a job. You see where I'm going with this? I, like most black men, witnessed at an early age young girls in school flocking around the boys that got in trouble the most. The ones that never did their homework, the ones that got in fights all the time, the ones that cussed out the teachers and got suspended, etc. The ones that did their assignments, were respectful to adults, and stayed out of trouble were the lame ducks that no girl wanted to be caught dead with. But those same lame ducks are the corporate executives, attorneys, doctors, engineers, Bryant Gumbels, Harold Fords, and President Barack Obamas. The other dudes are the deadbeat fathers, the men that can't find jobs, the men that are disrespectful, and the ones that go in and out of jail. Now ask yourself, who is to blame for your experiences with black men? Is it the men's fault for being ignorant, or is it your fault for being attracted to ignorance? You see, people will always take what you offer them, even if they know they do not deserve it. For instance, Governor Sarah Palin knew that she was not knowledgeable enough to become vice president, but she accepted the opportunity because, shit, why not? But the true fault of her ignorance is really that of the John McCain administration, because why would you pick someone that is subpar and then get upset with them when they perform at a subpar level? It's not their fault, it's your fault. Women have what I like to refer to as a sweet spot. This sweet spot refers to the period of their life where their body and their features are at their best. And this time period usually falls somewhere between the ages of 15 and 28. This age period is by no coincidence the same time frame that most female models are able to find work abundantly. After this time frame is over, the female body begins to lose some of its vibrancy and luster. What happens is this. During this portion of a female's life, they are given the most attention by males. However, the males that they are interested in at the time are the wild, exciting, street thug, player, hoodlum, sports jock, asshole types, etc. The guys that are on the straight and narrow are considered lame, square, and unattractive. And as a result, very few of them receive the time of day from these women. But what happens is, after a few years of dating these bad boy types, these women now have children. Their bodies are beginning to sag. Their faces are beginning to wrinkle and mature. Their breasts and backsides are beginning to droop. And they have emotional damage from their previous relationships, such as insecurity, trust issues, anger, and bitterness. And at that point, they say to themselves, "The hell with this. I'm going to go find me a good man." This is like someone having a party at their house and not inviting you. You go and knock on the door and they say that you can't come in. And then after the party is over, the food is gone and the house is all fucked up. They call you up and invite you to come over and help them clean up the mess left behind by the party guests. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Sounds messed up, huh? But that is exactly what most black women do to the good men that they come across early in their lives. Good men want to come to the party when it's hype, and most civilized people don't mind sticking around to help clean up a mess that they contributed to making. Unfortunately, most women don't invite the good men to the party until it's over. The problem with this is that now those guys that were on the straight and narrow are now successful. And because of their success, they have an enormous amount of women that are interested in them. So now they don't have to settle for a woman with 2 kids. They don't have to settle for a woman that is out of shape. They don't have to settle for a woman that has mental and psychological issues because now their status makes them a commodity. But because most men are sexually driven, they may still date these women and have sex with them, but usually the relationship does not go much further than that, unless they mistakenly conceive a child during this time. Once a woman goes through her experiences with the bad boy types, and then she tries to make the transition to good guys, they often find that the good guys don't treat them much better. This is because by the time that they reach the good guys, they are no longer considered to be a good catch for a good man. So, they are then reduced to being sex partners or short-term relationship companions for these men to pass the time with until they find someone better. This then makes those women even more bitter, and more often, they place the blame for their unhappiness on men instead of their previous bad decision-making. It all boils down to choices. Unfortunately, many Black women make detrimental choices early in life that ruin their chances of getting a good man before they even realize that a good man is what's best for them. The reality is that most young Black men that get lost in the system would not be there if Black women's expectations were different. As I stated before, men are biologically sexually driven, so males of all races will always aspire to be whatever they subconsciously perceive women to be attracted to. Therefore, if young Black boys grow up receiving the impression that pretty women consider it to be attractive to be a thug, then that is the image that most of them will project, unless they are shown something different or there is some intervention involved. This means that every time a boy or young man sees his mother or another woman that he loves and or respects dating a man that is uneducated, unemployed, due to laziness and lack of skills, not due to them being laid off because of our current economic issues, or fits the image of a street thug, hoodlum, or dope dealer, you at that point have just contributed to the social programming that subconsciously tells your Black men that this is how they should look and conduct themselves. Think about the songs that you are dancing to and supporting. Many of you may remember a song by MC Lyte called Roughneck. This whole song basically talks about how sexy it is to be the type of guy who hangs out on the corner with his pants hanging off his ass, drinking 40s, smoking weed, and shooting dice all day. This song made the top 40 on Billboard charts and was her first gold record. Then, in 2005, Destiny Child made a song called Soldier that states, "If your status ain't hood, I ain't checking for you. Better be street if you're looking at me." That song went platinum. Then, the R&B artist Ciara made a song called Can't Leave 'Em Alone, which states, "I can't leave 'em alone. I tried that good boy game, but the dope boys turned me on." That song also made the top 40 Billboard chart. These songs would not have been successful if women did not like and identify with them. I sincerely hope that Black women understand that when you support songs like this, you are guilty of telling young Black men that they have to be a loser to get some pussy. It is important that women never forget that pussy is the driving force for men. Not love, not companionship, just pussy. That's it. Here's the problem though. Women's power of influence over men is peaked somewhere between the ages of 15 and 28. Once women begin to lose their figure and their skin begins to wrinkle, their power of influence is gone. Young men do not aspire to become the type of man that middle-aged, overweight women with children are attracted to. They aspire to become whatever it is that beautiful, young, fit women are attracted to. Sometimes they end up with women who do not meet the criteria. But trust me, that is not what they were striving for. With that being said, women cannot be attracted to bad boys when they are 21 years old and then expect men to change from being the bad boy to the good man for them when they reach 35. It is the young, attractive women who set the tone and have the power of influence. They are the ones that the men want to impress. It just so happens that the young, pretty women of the past 2 decades were attracted to this bad boy thug image. The moral of the story is you cannot start off liking bad boys and then switch up in your 30s. I do wholeheartedly believe that this is the very reason why so many of our young Black men aspire to have professions in the fields of sports, entertainment, and crime, even though success in these fields requires a huge amount of luck and rarely is achieved. If one were to become successful at these fields, the amount of money that can be made is quite substantial. And these fields don't require individuals to have the typical corporate America appearance. In other words, if a Black man was a corporate executive, physician, or an attorney, but he had a sleeve of tattoos on his arm, tattoos on his neck, face, or hands, and had his hair in cornrows, I could pretty much assure you that he would have a very difficult time securing employment with any reputable company, hospital, or law firm. If, by some stroke of luck, he were able to get a job in these areas, I am positive that he would not have very many clients, which would ultimately lead to him becoming unsuccessful. Truth be told, if President Barack Obama looked like the example I gave earlier in this paragraph, not only would he not be president of the United States, but even you would not have voted for him. Yet, the majority of the women reading this book are physically attracted to and have sexual relationships with these type of men. This is why so many of our young black men are confused about what they want to do with their lives, if it doesn't include sports, entertainment, or being the next big drug kingpin. Even despite the fact that it is a lot easier to achieve wealth by becoming a doctor, corporate exec, or attorney, the social cultures that those professions belong to are unaccepting of the physical appearance and so-called quote-unquote swag that our young men aspire to or wish to possess. I would argue that if black women were to unanimously state that from here on out, you must be intelligent, responsible, respectful, and educated to get some pussy, all of a sudden our young men would have their futures back. Ladies, please understand that the future of our race lies in the decisions that you make. As I stated earlier in the previous chapter, truth be told, don't be hating on the white girls. I explained that due to the fact that the majority of black children are born to single mothers, most African American little girls witness their mothers struggle and strive to make ends meet. The mothers of these little girls do not want their daughters to have to struggle, depend on handouts, or get taken advantage of by men as they have, so they instill a strong sense of independence into their daughters. However, the way in which black women raise their boys is completely different. I believe that subconsciously, many black women feel an overwhelming amount of sympathy for their sons due to them not having fathers present in the home, and consequently try to make it up to them by pacifying their boys. I have never, in my life, seen so many lazy-ass little boys as I have seen in recent years. This is primarily because the mothers raising these boys do not assign any responsibility to them until they are almost grown men. At that point, they expect these boys to just become responsible and act like men. Only they can't because they never had an example of what a real man should be, due to the fact that the man their mother slept with to create them, and more than likely every man that she brought around him after that, was a freaking loser. Then the mother, due to her guilt, babied and spoiled the hell out of them basically their entire life, thus creating a weak man. So, here those young men are at the age of 20 with the maturity of a 15 or 16-year-old. I think that it's important to state that women should make it a practice to raise their sons to be the type of men that they wish they could date, instead of raising them to be the type of men that they actually do date. If more women instilled the same core values along with the same intensity into their boys as they do with their girls, we would have a lot more young men in college and working in corporate America.